Greg, we want to talk today about 1919, a year of labor radicalism around the world. Why 1919? The war is over. You think people would be happy? What's going on?
Well, I think people were happy that the war was over, but there were a lot of other things in their lives that didn't make them so happy. Much of what predated the war, but a lot of it exacerbated by the war. If we think globally about 1919, which is I think how we should think about it, we Canadians tend to think about it as we used to think about it only as a city event, and then we thought about it as a bit of a regional event, because that was one of the explanations. Increasingly, I think the historiography has come around to thinking about it as a national event, but indeed it's a national event that was taking place in a context of similar events around the world, basically. The most famous American example would be the Seattle General Strike that was around almost at the same time. There was a Boston police strike, similar to the police strikes in many cities. Events in South America, European events, of course, the failed German Revolution led by the Spartacists, and which led to the unfortunate deaths of Liebknecht and Luxembourg. And the Hungarian Soviet of Balakoon, also unfortunately not very long-lived, sorry. So I'm not sure I've even covered all of the international events.
So the OBU itself, of course, at the Western Labor Conference in March of 1919, virtually everybody is supporting that idea. But there are people, in terms of the existing labor movement, are threatened by that.
Absolutely. Well, the craft unions saw it as a direct attack, and the TLC with Tom Moore worked as hard as they could to undermine the OBU. And the Canadian states certainly targeted the OBU as well as the political parties that were on the left in terms of who they surveilled and took most interest in. The list, if you go, we have the list of the files in the order that they were open for the first few thousand, and very prominently among them are the Winnipeg strike leaders, people from the Calgary Labor Conference, the Socialist Party of Canada, and the One Big Union.
Okay, and so this surveillance continues even after the strike?
It continues from its origins in the First World War period till the kind of surveillance that we are experiencing today. It's continuous. The only thing that changes is it becomes more and more technologically sophisticated, and we're subjected to indeed vastly more surveillance than was possible even at the heights of the RCMP craziness. The overt repression of the horrible events and the pictures of the mounted police and troops attacking the crowds is certainly a moment. I think we don't know as much as we'd like to, but I think the presence of women in the strike and the leadership of some of the women that we do know about is an important aspect of 1919. The spread of the sympathy strikes is also a kind of demonstration of a solidarity that I think is probably there for the first time on a national scale. And the role of those often unorganized in a labor union sense, but often organized in their own communities, of of the immigrant population in Winnipeg in making the strike total is another important moment of that strike.